Hello, everybody. Welcome to Late Night Football. Welcome to another a special show. Actually, it's not really a react. It is a reaction, but it's not really a reaction show. It is, of course, the postmortem after any big defeat continues, and for Manchester United, especially so. And it's got me thinking. And there's a lot of things that go on. And after these games, there's always sort of reactions. There's always things to talk about. And I think after this game, a lot of the calls will increase for Glazers out. I think that's just going to increase, and that's got to happen. That has got to happen. That the calls have to increase, the voice has to be increased, the pressure has got to increase on the Glazers to sell, because really that's the only way I see of Manchester United ever getting back to the top. Now that's my opinion. People feel free to disagree with it. And so this video is a bit of a how-to and a why. As to why am I Glazers out? Why is anybody Glazers out really? Are they to blame for today's game? A lot of people are all going, well, it's the players, it's the manager, it's not the Glazers. You can't blame the Glazers. And I beg to differ on that, and that's something I want to talk about as well. But how do you actually get them out? I mean, everybody has to talk about that, but how do you actually get them out? So I think the first part is the why, right? And one of the first things that people always defend is, well, they've given you £1 billion. If you and Man United have spent £1 billion, Glazers have spent £1 billion, right? And they bought all these players. So why do you blame the Glazers? Well, first of all, Glazers have not spent £1 billion. It's Man United. They've taken revenue from the club and spent £1 billion. Keep in mind, the Glazers are not like the Sheikh at not like Sheikh Mansour at Manchester City. They're not like Saudi Arabia's the owners at Newcastle. The Saudi Arabian owners at Newcastle. They're not like Roman Abramovich was at Chelsea. They do not spend their own money. What they do is they take money out from the revenues of Manchester United and they spend that. The Glazers have not spent a single pound, a single penny out of their pocket for Manchester United. They didn't even buy the club with their own money. They actually bought it on debt. The only club in the Premier League right now that is bought in such a way, and the only club that operates in such a way. It will never happen again because now the rules have changed. It will never be allowed to happen again. But United has settled with that. So they never spent a single pound. So they haven't spent £1 billion first of all of their own money. They spent the club's money. And in that same time, they've also taken out £1 billion out of the club. Right? So when people say 1 billion, United could have spent 2 billion. Just remember that. Okay, that's the first point. They could have spent £2 billion. Not saying they should have, but they could have. Right? And so that's what, again, the only club in the Premier League that takes dividends out of the club. The only owners who do that, and again, that's Manchester United. So again, that's one reason why big Glazers out, right? As Manchester United fans, the players, right? The people talk about the players spend. Now keep in mind, but £1 billion that was spent. How many of those players? How much of that money was actually spent on players that were needed? How much of that was just vanity signings, Hollywood signings? How much of that? The Paul Pogba, right? Talk about Paul Pogba first of all. They spent about £100 million, almost £100 million on Paul Pogba. So if you say £1 billion, that's 10% of one player. Paul Pogba was not wanted by Jose Mourinho. He came to Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho didn't want it. He even said so many oftentimes he said, that was not my signing. And we all agree with that, because if there's one player that embodies everything that Jose Mourinho doesn't want, it's Paul Pogba. It does everything. And that's not to say that Paul Pogba is a bad player, that Paul Pogba, is whatever. My point is that he was never a Jose Mourinho player. So it always makes sense to me when Jose Mourinho says that he never wanted him. I believe that, because he's exactly that Jose Mourinho never could work with. He was an Ed Woodward signing. He was an Ed Woodward signing, a vanity signing, because Ed Woodward wanted to kind of stick it to Salis or whoever. And he was like, I'm going to bring Paul Pogba back to the club. I'm going to do something that Salis would have. I'm going to bring him back and I'm going to make him a legend. And that was all that was. They saw the marketing potential. Paul Pogba had massive marketing potential, and he was bought for marketing potential. He wasn't bought. Trophies was like a bonus, right? They could win trophies, that'd be great. But it was really about the marketing potential of Paul Pogba that he was bought. He was a brand player. And that is the reason why, despite 4 summers of him being linked out to leave the club, he never left the club. The club never sold him because they knew his marketing potential. Even though he stunk on the pitch, even though he didn't want to be here, they never let him go, because and now they're doing that with Rashford. Marcus Rashford is in the same boat now. They put a ridiculous £120 million apparently is his price tag. Who pays £120 million? Right? I mean, it's all because of marketing. That's what it is. But anyway, that's Paul Pogba. But then you've got Romelu Lukaku, another player that Jose Mourinho didn't want. He was second choice by the Romelu Lukaku. The first choice was Alvaro Morata. Now people would say the Morata and Lukaku, there's not much of a difference, but he wasn't first choice, and that is what it is. The managers have never been given their first choice signings. Louis van Gaal said it. Jose Mourinho said it. Erik ten Hag, if and when he gets sacked, he will say the same thing. They have not. Their managers are not being given first choice signings. What they've been given is they've been given fifth, sixth choice signings, and that too because they do them so late. Because by the time you get to fifth, sixth, it's so late, they have to overspend on average players. And the problem with overspending on average players is that they don't really improve the team. And because they don't improve the team, you stuck, you know, ultimately the manager can't really do much. We get sacked, and then the next manager doesn't really fancy them because they're average players. So you're spending all of this money on players that the manager doesn't even really want, but is only keeping them as squad filler. And then, you know, you say that you're spending a lot of money. Again, 40 million pounds on Amad Diallo and Facundo Pellistri, only signed because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer couldn't get Jadon Sancho. Therefore, they spent 40 million pounds on these two players. Between them, they were signed 2 years ago, by the way. Between them, they've not even played 10 games. Facundo Pellistri hasn't even made his debut yet, by the way, Manchester United. He hasn't played a game. But between them, they've not even played 10 games in 2 years for Manchester United. Imagine that 40 million pounds that has been spent on two players, right? And so, and then 85 million pounds on Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire, 85 million pounds on him. A player who was third choice, by the way, not first choice, because their first choice Solskjaer's first choice was Koulibaly. He didn't get him because his service was too expensive. He wanted Ruben Dias for the second choice. He said no because he's not Premier League proven. Too expensive for someone who's not Premier League proven. And then they settled on Harry Maguire. They paid 85 million pounds for him. They Paul Pogba, Harry Maguire, and then the two Ahmad and Pellistri. You've already spent 200 million pounds. 200 million pounds on four players who, for whatever reason, who shouldn't have been in the club. Right, so you've already taken out 20% of your budget just on that, 200 million euros. So they've actually not spent money; they've just spent money willy-nilly on players that the club didn't need, just to show that they were spending. And by the way, Ahmad and Pellistri only signed because the fans were going to riot because they had missed out on Sancho, so they wanted to placate the fans, and that's why they signed. So the money that has been spent is irrelevant because there's never been a plan of how to spend it. It has never been about what the manager wants. There's always been about what, you know, whoever the CEO is in charge, whimsically deciding we'll spend on whoever. And we'll get players in. So that is where that you know, so the money spent part is absolutely irrelevant. To me, that conversation doesn't even make any sense, right? So and so why you know, so after this game, right? You say, and remember when I did my match reaction show, I didn't blame. I said Erik ten Hag takes the blame. I said it, he takes the blame. I said the players are to blame. Absolutely, they are to blame, right? But when you look at that structure, what choices did Erik ten Hag really have? Right? Who was he going to replace? He had to take up. You know, could he bring on Donny? Could he bring on you know, different players? I mean, there's not a lot of options on that bench. There really isn't, and that is, you know, where does that blame lie? And I always go back to talk about structure, because if you take out the Glazers tomorrow, the Glazers left tomorrow, right? Arnold will leave, Murtough will leave. They'll go. You know, it happened at Chelsea. They'll go, and once they go, then everything kind of falls. You take out the head, and the whole structure follows. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. Actually, you know what, we'll talk about right now. So if you take out the Glazers, then, you know, Murtough and Arnold will be gone. They'll be gone. They're not going to stick around. They're going to be gone. Either they'll resign or they'll be sacked, but they'll be gone, right? And then you get a new CEO. Hopefully, you get a competent CEO. Get a competent CEO. The competent CEO hires a competent negotiator, and a competent director of football. Right? The competent director of football then hires a proper coach. It could be Ten Hag, it could be somebody else, but they hires a proper coach. A proper coach brings in proper players, and then you build a structure. So it all starts from the top. You hire incompetent numpties like Arnold. They hire their incompetent friends like Murtough, and then all that happens is what we are seeing right now. So so that's another reason why you need to have the Glazers out. That's just what it is. You know, everything starts at the top. You know, and that's what it is. And I do believe, I honestly believe, I know this is conspiracy theory, but I honestly believe, I think that there has been a mandate that the certain players have to stop. I think so, because there's no other reasonable explanation as to why Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, they seem to start every game. There's no other explanation as to why this. And Scott McTominay as well, by the way. And I like Scott McTominay, but even he starts so many games. Why do they start so many games? And when all of us can see that they're shit, why did they start so many games? Right? Harry Maguire is, you know, Erik ten Hag has come out and said he's a great player, he's achieved so much of Manchester United, he's made him his captain, right? And why has he done that? I mean, to me, it has to be conspiracy, because Harry Maguire does not play anything like what Erik ten Hag wants him to, or wants any defender to. So I don't see why he starts. Same with Luke Shaw. Same with Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes, I said it since preseason. I said it in preseason. Bruno Fernandes is going to struggle in Erik ten Hag's system. I don't think he fits Erik ten Hag's system. And yet he's playing every game. He's starting every game. He's playing 90 minutes. So there's something deeply wrong. There's something that's going on. And I do believe the Glazers mandate certain players have to play because they've got social media followers, because they bring in the clicks, because they bring in the you know, the engagement, and they need that. They need it. You know, that's what it is. I think that's where certain players have to start. Marcus Rashford has to start, because if Marcus Rashford doesn't play, there are no hashtag Rashfords going around, and there are no hashtag Rashfords going around. Who's gonna follow Manchester United? And so that is another issue. And that I think that's what it is. We'll never know the truth, but that is again my theory, and I do firmly believe that that's something that's happening. So there's a lot of, and people give you lots of reasons. There'll be lots of reasons why people will be saying, yeah, players is out, this, that, you know, there's a lot of other things. The training ground is in a mess. The stadium has not been upgraded for so long. Gary Neville estimates it's probably going to take about £1 billion just to renovate the stadium. I mean, imagine how that's gone that far, but imagine that as well. And then you've got the women's team has been neglected as well. We actually had a very dynamic women's team actually a few years ago, and under Casey Stone, they really worked hard, and then they gutted it. They just gutted it. And now it's in a complete disarray as well. So they've really, throughout from A to Z, the operation of the club has been just shambolic, just poor, just bad, and that's why you see those results on the pitch. Those results on the pitch don't just happen automatically. There's a systemic, disruption that goes on, and it finally leads onto the pitch. The fact is, the players are not accountable, not being held accountable because they know nobody's holding accountable. I mean, Marcus Rashford can just stroll onto the pitch and do whatever he wants because he knows he's going to start the next game. Because he knows that if he says he's going to leave, the Glazers are going to bend over backwards to give him a contract. He knows his agent can put out a rumor of going to PSG, and they're going to bend over backwards to please him. He knows that, and he's going to do that. Bruno Fernandes has just been given a new contract for what? He's been given a new contract. He knows he's going to start every week. He's got to, because he's got his millions that he's got to be banked. I'm not saying these people don't care about the club. What I'm saying is, for them, there's no accountability, because when you don't have accountability, you can care about the club. But when the going gets tough, you're almost like, oh, am I up for it? I'm on. I don't really care. Yeah, it's okay. You're not 100% committed, and you need competitive players if you're going to play top level football. So it all starts from there. It all goes cycles down. And then that's that there is, and that's the why. That's the why, isn't it? Of why the Glazers need to leave. Now, how they could leave? That's a tough question. That actually a very tough question. Now, I don't think hostile takeover bids are the answer. I don't think that's going to work, because the Glazers have no need to sell. Keep in mind as well, in the past, whenever United didn't qualify for the Champions League, that summer would be heavy spending. They would spend heavily in the summer. They would go, I'm going to spend this. Because they're trying to buy players, because they're trying to buy their way back in the top 4. They're not doing that this year. They're not spending money this year. And there is a reason why they're not doing it. It's because I think they've realized they don't need to be in the Champions League. They can save money of not being in the Champions League by not spending that money to get the Champions League. I just think they've given up. I just feel that somewhere they've given up on this. If they thought, we'll just work with the franchise model where we'll just keep Manchester United a cash cow, then maybe in a few years we'll find something miracle cure and something will happen. I think that's what they've done. Because it's otherwise it's amazing, incredible to think that they've not spent as much money as they should to try and get back in top 4. It almost feels that they've given up the season even before it's really started. They've just said that's okay, we'll just ignore it this year. And that's just, I don't know. I don't know. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about that? Because I just can't make any sense of the fact that they're not spending any money to try and get back in the Champions League. So, and the final part of this is, again, it started, when they appointed Rangnick, I really thought that this is change. This is real change. They finally realized they need a structure. They can't rely on vibes. They can't rely on passion. They need structure. They need tactics. They need, they need a system. And then Rangnick is the best guy to build a system, because he's literally built clubs from the ground up. So you've got a guy who's going to build systems. For anybody who thought Ralph Rangnick was going to get them in the top 4, they were delusional. They were deluded. That was never going to happen, because the way Ralph Rangnick plays is absolutely not the way these guys play. These players don't know how to play that style of football. They just don't know it. It's not that they don't try. The reason why they don't try is because they are so bad at it that they don't want to try it. And the reason why they're so bad at it is because they're just not good enough. They're just not good enough to do it. So they just go, we're not going to do it. We don't want to do it. We can't do it. Right? It's like how and that's what it is. Ralph Rangnick, and that's why I thought, for me, and I said this when he was appointed, I said top 4 is not the goal. The goal really is, he comes in, he assesses the squad for 5-6 months, sees what needs to be done to improve the team, and then in the summer you put him in the recruitment side. He brings in the players that you want to bring in, tells the new managers who to keep, who not to keep. He does all that. That was the thing. I think most people just went, oh, he's got to, you're supposed to get top 4. Why is he not getting top 4? He's a bad coach. Yada yada yada. And what Rangnick, and I think what the Glazers thought was, we'll get Rangnick in because he's a yes man. We'll get him in. He'll be very happy to be here. He's an interim coach anyway, so he's going to be all starstruck and this and that. And by the time he realizes what's going on, the season is over. We'll see how we'll assess him, and we'll keep him or we'll leave him. Rangnick's a smart man. He knew what his mandate was, and he worked on it from day one. And what happened was, when he started getting frustrated, because remember, he actually asked for Zakaria, wasn't given that. He asked for Kamara, wasn't given that. Julian Alvarez, he asked for, he wasn't given that. And the justification that was used was that they didn't want to make any signings that the new manager might not want. I can tell you, Julian Alvarez was signed at Manchester City. If Pep Guardiola wants you, I'm sure Erik Ten Hag will want you as well. Zakaria went to Juventus. Again, if a big club like Juventus wants you, I'm sure Erik Ten Hag can find a place for you. Kamara went to Aston Villa. Again, a Premier League club, one that's doing much better than we are. So these players were all available. They were very cheap as well. It wouldn't even cost Kamara and Sakare, between them, probably wouldn't even have cost £10 million, and yet they didn't sanction that. And what have they done in the summer? They've done nothing. So it was never the plan to buy any players. The only thing was they brought Rangnick in because they thought he's a yes man. He'll agree to our terms. We won't have to spend any money. He'll get us top four, maybe, and then we'll see forward. But what Rangnick said was, no, I'm not going to be yes man. I'm going to stand up to you. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. I'm going to go and tell the press exactly what it is, because the press is going to come after me, and I don't want to take that shit on myself. So I'm going to say what it is, and then you guys can deal with it. And he did that. And the thing is, the Glazers didn't like it. They kicked him out. The fans, many of the fans go, and remember one thing as well. It was he was doing it to the English players, and the English players kind of went, "Oh, Rangnick thinks like that. He's stupid. He doesn't know what he's talking about. This, that, this, that." He's a smart man. And now the same players are struggling under Erik ten Hag. So who's to blame? Is it Erik ten Hag? Is it the players? Right? At what point do you blame the players? The players just don't seem to get any blame, right? And that's what it is. And I still believe 10 in, 10 out. It was the thing when I said 10 in, 10 out. He said that. I agreed with it. 10 in, 10 out. He kept saying it. The Glazers didn't want to do it. They just didn't want to do it. That's another reason to say that they didn't want to bring 10 in, because bringing 10 in was not going to happen in £50 million. They needed £200 million to do it at the very least. They were never going to spend £200 million in one window, which is what was needed. So 10 in was never going to happen. And 10 out means you have to then take hard decisions of who's going out. And that's what Rangnick was talking about. You're gonna have to get in that 10 out. You're gonna have to talk about whether it's gonna be Maguire, whether it's gonna be Rashford, whether it's gonna be Luke Shaw, McTominay, Bruno, Fred, Ronaldo, even, right? De Gea. These are players that, and I'm not saying all of these players would have gone, but I'm saying if you're gonna go 10 out, you're gonna have to talk about these 8 at some point, and who among these 8 will stay and will go. And they didn't want to take those decisions. They just went, no, we're not gonna do that. We don't want to do that. Sorry, Ralph, you're out. That was what is what. Right? And so they sacked him. And they lost the one. And the thing about Rangnick wasn't just that his recruitment is good. He's got his connections. He's got the connections with South America. He's got his connections with Europe. He's got his connections in different parts of the world that actually United need. Their scouts. United scouting is one of the worst in Europe. It's actually one of the worst in Europe. They've been recommended so many players that they passed on, and they've become stars at the clubs. Moises Caicedo is a recent example at Brighton. They've also offered Alphonso Davies. They've offered Alphonso Davies and they rejected him. So think about these things, right? The scouting is that bad. And they were on a golden platter, on a silver platter. They were given a guy who has the best scouting network in all of Europe, and they said no, we don't want it, because they really didn't want to act on it. So that's where, and whether Erik ten Hag decided not to work with him, whether he was told he shouldn't work with him, whatever the reason being, he should never got to that point. Again, a competent club would have been like, Rangnick's a great guy, he's a genius. You work with him. You find a way to work with him. He'll tell you what to do. You work together. You guys find a way to work together. That's how competent clubs run. They didn't do that. They just said, no, we're not going to keep you. And because that's why. And why they do that? Because he was attacking them. Because he was exposing everything that they wanted to hide. They wanted a guy who was not going to say too much and just going to get on with his job, protect them. And Rangnick wasn't going to do that. So one of the most brilliant minds of the 21st century, I always say this, one of the most brilliant footballing minds of the 21st century was reduced to a meme because he went to Manchester United. So that's why I'm Glazers out. And I come back to how do you get the Glazers out? Every place spend so much time on the why, on the how. I don't think hostile takeover bids will work. I don't think you can I don't think a relegation. A lot of people say relegation. I don't think we're at the point yet where we can talk about United relegation. I know I said this morning that I think there might be a relegation battle. I think if they don't make any additions, but I don't think that will be true. I think they will make a few additions. But if they don't make any additions and they don't make any proper additions, it's possible there might be a relegation battle. But I still think they'll come out of it, even if they were to by any means get dragged into relegation battle. I think they'll come out of it. And for anyone who's going, oh, that's not possible. Remember, Everton were a top 7 team not too long ago. Now they're in a relegation battle. So it can always happen. It can always happen. Never ever think that it can't happen. It can always happen. And you've got to always think, you can never take anything for granted in football. So, but anyway, leaving that aside, I don't think relegation is the answer in any case. And in any case, even if relegation were the answer, that's still 2 or 3 years away. It's not going to happen. I just think the way and yes, and some people going, well, you stop buying the shirts, stop going to matches, stop watching, on games. I think that's all impractical. The reason why it's impractical is there's always going to be people who are going to buy the shirts. There's always going to be people who are going to come to the stadium. There's always going to be people who are going to watch on TV. You can't stop that. You can't really stop that. You can try, but you can't really do that. I think what needs to happen is that United, the only thing the Glazers care about is not footballing success. It's not football. We know that. It's the brand. The brand is the most important thing for Manchester United, and therefore you've got to destroy the brand of Manchester United. If you really want the Glazers to go, you've got to destroy the brand of Manchester United. And how do you do that? You make it toxic. You make it so that nobody wants to be attached to the brand. So, and I don't mean toxic. I don't mean violence. I don't mean I'm not saying do things that are unlawful or illegal. What you've got to do is you've got to make it so that brands don't want to be attached to Manchester United. You've got to make it so that people go, I don't, or companies go, I don't want to be seen with Manchester United. Right now, Manchester United is uncool. That's what you can make it. So how do you do that? You can probably do Twitter action on Twitter. You can make Glazers out trending. You can, maybe even boycott certain brands on Twitter. You could do that. You could probably, you could try and not go to games, or you could try and do a lot of protests when the games are on. Maybe have empty stadium protests, things like that. You've got to do that. But in addition to that, you just got to basically what you've got to do is you've got to make fans go, we don't want to be associated with Manchester United. You've got to make that whole place toxic. You've got to make that whole Manchester United brand has got to become toxic, and and there's lots of different ways to do it. I don't know how much of it is feasible, how much of it is possible, but there are ways to do it, and you've got to find ways to make that brand toxic. Maybe even like Glazers, whatever you do. And again, this is what I'm saying is that we often go take them hard out. We go Cristiano Ronaldo out, McTominay, get out of my club, Gary Neville, don't talk about my club, Paul Scholes, don't talk about my club, Harry Maguire, get out of my club, David De Gea, get out of my club. It's got to be beyond individual agendas at this point. It's got to be, the sole focus has got to be get Glazers out. That's what the sole focus has got to be. If you're serious about getting the Glazers out, the sole focus has got to be get the Glazers out. Because I guarantee you, once the Glazers get out and you get competent owners, all of this thing will be taken care of by itself. It doesn't need a genius to figure it out. Once you take out the head, everything else will fall in place. Like I said, Glazers out, Murtough will be out, Arnold will be out, we'll get good people in, hopefully. And when you get good people in, good things will happen automatically. The crap players will be gone by themselves. The new manager will come in, or new manager or the current manager will have more power, more autonomy to do whatever they want, and then they'll go, yeah, I don't want that player, please get him out, get him out, get him out, get him out. It'll just happen by itself. It will happen by itself. You just need to get rid of the owners, and everything else will fall into place. So that's what the focus has got to be. The focus has got to be get Glazers out. Forget about individual player agendas, coach agendas, ex-player agendas. Forget all of that. Just got to focus on getting the Glazers out. That's what's got to be there. And sometimes we get bogged down by individual agendas. I'm guilty of that as well. We start talking about Erik getting sacked. We start talking about players leaving and being sold. And what we want to do is we don't want to do that. We want to talk only about Glazers getting out. Get the Glazers out. Get the Glazers out. So do that. Get trending on Twitter. Get Glazers out trending on Twitter. Have big banners at the games, right? Glazers out. Everybody should have a banner. Go to the games. If you're going to the games, carry like a chart or a banner or something that says Glazers out. Glazers out. Try and do protests where you kind of do stadium walkouts. You walk out of the band. Maybe even I don't know how you can kind of. I'm trying to think of ways in which you can kind of make it toxic so that brands don't want to get attached. And maybe there's some negative publicity that could be done. About Manchester United that just makes brands go, no, we don't want to be associated with that, right? You basically, the only way that you're going to get out of the Glazers is the brand value tanks, because once the brand value Manchester United tanks, there's nothing left. There's no footballing success, and there's no money to be made off of it, and that's the way it is. So that's how you get rid of the Glazers. Basically, it's just that, and it will take time. It will take steps. It can be done quickly, but it will still require a lot of coordination, a lot of steps. It's going to require massive social media campaigns. It's going to require stadium campaigns. It's going to require different kinds of activities, efforts, initiatives. It's going to require the whole fan base to be united. Can the fan base be united? That's the big question. Can they leave aside individual agendas to actually come together? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. And that's what makes it difficult, doesn't it? That's what makes it hard. But that's the way it goes, right? I mean, yeah, maybe even not buy the t-shirts. That could help as well. Not buying the t-shirts. I mean, already shirt sales apparently are down this year for United already, so they're already feeling the squeeze now. So you've got to continue doing that. You've got to maybe even try and not watch the games, so that you don't give them the TRP ratings. Maybe that is something as well. So these are things, and these are things that need to be done. That's the way you get the Glazers out. Anyway, it's been a long video. I wasn't sure how long it would go, but I just want to get out of my chest because this is something that I need to talk about. We don't get a chance in the week to talk about these kind of things, but I really want to talk about it. So I hope you found something useful. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this. Do you think there are other ways that that the fans can work together to get the Glazers out? Is there something? Do you think the Glazers? What are your thoughts on the Glazers? Maybe some of your Glazers, like the Glazers. Maybe let me know what you think about that, because that is something I would like to hear from you guys. So let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Do smash a like if you like the content, and if you are Glazers out like I am, do smash a like for that. Do remember to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, follow us on Facebook. We always appreciate your support, and want to continue to do this. And of course, we are doing a lot of these videos, so you get notified every time they drop. So please do subscribe. Thank you so much. Have a good night. We'll see you again soon. Bye bye.